I think the first hard drug I took was amphetamines at the age of 15 on a Friday night after school. And I suffered from an amphetamine addiction from the age of 16 to the age of 19. And doing amphetamine and what I like to call uppers, you know, going out raving, and I thought it was just the normal thing. And that the typical ladder from drugs really started off with cannabis and went all the way throughout my life up to the use of heroin and crack cocaine, intravenously.
Heavenly Father, just thank you for everything you've done in our lives. Thank you for everything you've done. I ask you that when we go throughout tonight, you speak to us through your word, Father. Praise in your name. Amen.
So there was a lot of drinking, there was a lot of sniffing cocaine, a lot of other recreational drugs. And then the harder stuff kicked in. I was doing crack cocaine, I was doing cocaine, I was doing sleeping tablets, Soplacone, Xanax, weed, you name it really, anything just to numb. I have been in Betel for 3 years now, and my daughter is 3 and she turns 4 tomorrow.
I absolutely hated all forms of organised religion. Didn't see any point in it. Didn't think there were any answers. I just saw it as a means of controlling people. And I thought anyone that was involved in organised religion was deluded. I was very atheistic. I head up public relations, raising awareness of Betel. My main role really is pastoral care of the men. So I oversee all of the men's houses.
So at Betel right now, I'm the pastor of the church. I oversee the men's houses, which is we have about 50 men in residence right now. So I help oversee their care as they come in off the streets on drugs and help them walk through this journey of getting free from addiction as well.
You're the name above all names. You are worthy of our praise.
My husband Kent and I direct the work in Betel in the UK. And I grew up in Mountainside, New Jersey, in the United States.
Oh dear, you haven't sung for a while.
I grew up in eastern Pennsylvania, not far from where Mary Alice grew up. We've been serving overseas now for 32 years. We met singing together in a band that wasn't nearly as good as we thought it was.
So we moved to the UK in January, I believe, 96.
Yeah.
Living at the same property at Windmill House. Raised our children there.
Till I met you.
Growing up in Betel felt completely normal for me because I don't know anything different. I loved it. Being able to live in a very tight-knit community was enjoyable as a young kid. Loved spending time with the guys. They taught me how to play chess and dominoes and ping pong. I never felt unsafe my whole entire life. I always felt safe with the men.
We've tried different avenues with the lottery and with different government funding pots. We've tried to go those avenues, but we've never got anything from it.
So I've always wanted to help people, but I've never helped a drug-related charity or a religious-based charity ever. Unfortunately, to tell the truth, I wouldn't have been involved with Betel if it hadn't been for what I'd lived through with Lewis, which is really sad, but it's the truth.
But so many people in addiction come from very painful backgrounds, painful childhoods, traumatic, abusive, and that trauma really does affect people. So to ask people to be willing to explore how that has affected them and how that has shaped and influenced their lifestyles and their decision making is difficult. And, you know, and a lot of people understandably don't want to go there, it's something we do see quite a lot of.
I was born in Hammersmith, West London, to my mother Sharon and my father Johnny. At the age of 2, I was adopted from them after a short time in care, and that was due to alcoholism and drug abuse on their part. My father, I don't know what's happened to him. My mother's deceased. I've never contacted him. I don't know where he is. Last time I heard, he was in prison. I've been told he's deceased as well, but I haven't managed to confirm any of these. I didn't have a bond with my biological mother. She was non-existent for the first 2 years of my life, which are integral in a baby's development, a young person's development, I think.
What do you feel about that now?
I don't really think about it. I put it to the back of my mind, if I'm honest. I don't know how our psychology is made up and whether it has an impact on my upbringing and who I have been and the way I act, but personally I feel that the decisions I've made and the life I've lived is down to choices I've made, not down to a choice my mother made years ago.
My mum was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 3, and on my 8th birthday, she passed away. We met when we were 16 at college, and yeah, life was good for quite a few years. And then drinking became excessive, and especially for him, and things turned very dark when he did. After 7 years of being with him, that's when it turned really, really bad. The nights he would come home, I would try to pretend to be asleep. But one night it wasn't enough. And because I was asleep, he dragged me out of the bed by my feet. And he dragged me through the bedroom, through across to the flat into the lounge, and literally started toppling the furniture on top of me. I tried to crawl to get out of the room, and then he dragged me back in. And that's just when I don't remember a lot else, so I blanked in and out on a lot. Through several years, I was trying to fall pregnant. But I suffered 5 miscarriages.
I was brought to Betel through a problem me and my wife had with my stepson. He was struggling with addiction, and we tried all sorts of things to try and get him out of the addiction problem. It was proven to be impossible for me to manage, and my wife Karen knew a bit about Betel, and we'd heard some good things about them.
I didn't have a huge awareness of people's pasts, and I think that's what made it easier for them to relate to me. As a child, I know a lot of the men and women would say, like, having children around who didn't judge them or know about their past, but how accepting children are. Being a child and accepting them without knowing them really was a big part of their healing and a big part of their acceptance of themselves.
I've been a chef for about 15 years of my life, and it goes hand in hand with the trade. You finish work late, you work long hours, you finish. I'd drink 7-8 pints and not think anything of it because I got up for work the next morning. I'd been doing some work in North Devon in a place called Woolacombe. I had to change trains at Exeter St David's. My sister lived in Exeter, and I said I'd pop round and see her. I said, can you get any cocaine? And she said, I can do better than that. I can get crack cocaine. And I didn't leave her house for 4 months. I went back to work. I had a friend, Tom Webb. After 4 months, I went to see him at his new restaurant in Bould, and I was so dishevelled. I had severe weight loss and I was unkempt. And, you know, it shocked the hell out of him. And he said, right, I'm going to get you away. He gave me a head chef position. And that was my first time experience a heroin withdrawal. And I didn't sleep for 3 weeks. Thomas Webb forbid me from being served alcohol. There was a young, inexperienced barman there, and I got around it by manipulating him into serving me alcohol. And I think about 4 o'clock that next morning, I found myself back in my sister's hostel in Exeter after paying for a taxi and back on the heroin and crack cocaine.
So when the relationship ended, I ended up in another relationship with a guy. He was very much into drugs, drinking, and suffered another 2 miscarriages. So life just didn't really have a lot of meaning for myself at that point, because all I'd ever wanted since a young child myself was to have a baby and to have my own family. And so, yeah, I just didn't think it was possible. We both turned to crack, and that's when life for me completely plummeted. Just finding hungry for it all the time, like just the most random times of the day, and I wanted it there and then. After a couple of months, I actually then found out I was pregnant again. When I found out, I had numbed myself so much to this point, I didn't think anything of it. I just was expecting to wake up one day and baby would be gone. But she didn't. She carried on cooking away in there. But unfortunately, my addiction was too much at that point, and I'd lost myself too much at that point. So I carried on using crack cocaine whilst I was pregnant.
I'd be one of those people who'd say that an addict, it was their choice to be an addict. It was the way they were. They were the biggest idiot at school. They're the ones who couldn't stop. They were the big time fella who likes to take drugs, you know. But you've got to see addiction as an illness. It's a cancer. It's something which is horrific, you know, absolutely horrific. And these people haven't chosen to be addicts.
You use drugs because you're trying to run from something, you're trying to hide from something. So to me, addiction is a way that we're trying to cope with the pain that we've experienced.
Social services got involved near to when I was due. And then, so when my daughter was born, we named her Hope. But like I say, my addiction, it wasn't that it was more important than her, but it had taken such a control that, like I say, I didn't know who I was. I wasn't me. They say that addiction is like a disease, and it is. It riddles you. You have no control over it at all. And so when she was 3 months old, I had to give her up to my parents because I couldn't look after her. Yeah, she started being brought up by them in that first year when I was continually being hair strand tested by social services because I was still trying to fight the case that I could have her.
I overdosed 3 times within a week, and I ended up in hospital. They wouldn't release me from hospital without having a plan. I spoke to a psychiatrist and the social worker team, and it was agreed that I should come to Betel, and I have. And that's why I'm here now. I knew that this was the place for me to be.
I guess for an addict, your whole day is consumed with the acquiring of drugs and using drugs. It is a full-time job. And these services that we have, devotionals in the morning, our church services and Bible study groups, we're really trying to form different habits inside of people's lives. Jesus isn't this, one pill fix and everything's healed. It really is about a journey and it's built on that relationship. And this is where prayer comes in. Because prayer is a way that you begin to express your emotion, but you also get to be able to process it as well. Prayer is also a form of meditation and is a way you really stop and you almost silence yourself.
A number of years ago, we had a series of politicians visit, actually, who were very impressed with the results. And one of them, one time I remember very clearly, actually asked us, said, we love the businesses spreading around the country. You're not dependent on any government money. We see a positive change in people's lives. How do we do this without any of the religion? Can we do that without your Christian faith? I smiled just so we can try. From a Christian perspective, the motivation that really begins to transform somebody at a personal, intimate level in them comes from a sense of belonging and value that comes from knowing who you are, that you exist for a purpose, for a reason, that you're created, you're not a cosmic accident.
Yeah, the Gospels it's a narrative about Jesus' life. The eyewitnesses, people that were with him, give their day-to-day accounts on things he did and things that he said. So it reads like a story. There's a pretty high standard if you read through the Gospels of Jesus' life. But he doesn't just. But he's more than an example. These stories, not just something that we need to morally follow. If I was to really boil it down, it's about a relationship. It's about reading the Gospels is about getting to know Jesus, who he is, how he lived, the things he said, and it's based on building that relationship that it impacts your life.
There's been miracles done. If you look at some of the people in Betel and their testimonies of where they've come from and where they are now, it's amazing, and it can only be nothing short of a miracle. I believe so. It's about getting closer and learning the Word of God through the Bible. It's being in a holy place, a place uplifting, a place full of hope, a place full of happiness. When I come to Betel 2 months ago, life had been hard on me. I'd been beaten down. I was drowning, treading water at best. And since I've been here, they've helped me swim. I'm nowhere near yet at the other side, but yeah, I'm getting there, and that's only by the grace of God. I ask that you pray for me to help with the struggles I have, especially patience. I struggle with patience.
If you Google reviews on any kind of Christian rehab in Britain, someone will be there saying, "Oh, you're trying to brainwash us," "Oh, this place is a cult." It's universal, really. It's far easier just to blame it on someone else.
When you come into Betel, you're coming into an environment where you're going to be living in residence, and you can't just do whatever you want to do. It's going to be restricted because we're trying to help people who've had extreme addiction issues. And so those kinds of restrictions on people, they don't always take kindly to. And that's what you're coming up against. If you're not ready or prepared to do that, that's the reason why sometimes people lash out and want to call you a cult.
I don't know. I feel like if it was a cult, then I don't think I would have traveled. I don't think I would be connected to other people, which I am. And I think like I was trying to say, if people met me, that they would think I was strange or that there was oddities about me, but I don't know. I don't think the camera people think that I'm strange, but they can probably discern that.
We don't apologize for our faith. We're very upfront about who we are, what we believe in. Everyone's really understanding of Christianity is usually a misunderstanding of what it is. It's not about Bible bashing. It's not about rigidly adhering to a set of rules and regulations.
What we've always kind of said a little tongue-in-cheek is Betel isn't a sect, it's a sieve. It's like people come, they spend as long as they need to find a measure of healing in their lives. Everybody's free to enter, free to go.
So tonight, as I'm going from work, we're all going to play cricket. So there'll be 20 of us playing a cricket match. On the week, we play pool and table tennis, and we all interact with each other. I've never laughed as much as I have here, and I always thought that to have a good time, you had to be on drugs or alcohol. But here I've learned it's anything but, and the amount of laughter I have here is unfounded. I'd never thought in a million years I'd find this sort of happiness. And on the weekend, on a Sunday, we'll all play football or rugby, and it's brilliant.
What we do is not quick, it's not short term, it's not done from a distance with a lab coat and a clipboard. If the amount of time somebody can get help is dictated by funding, and funding is limited, interventions tend to be very short, and people who have been broken with drug and alcohol problems for 10, 15, 20 years, they don't change in a few weeks or even a few months. So we can offer the opposite, build businesses and pay the majority of our expenses through those without depending on government and families and the taxpayer. And then people can stay as long as they need to. They can heal for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years. And that just is very hard to recreate in today's society.
My work at Betel is working on the garden teams. We go out and we do garden work across Birmingham and the Solihull area. It's good because you leave at 9 o'clock, you come back at 5 o'clock, it gives you a sense of normality. I love it. It's good for my fitness, it's good for my health, mentally and physically. And I'm learning a new skill. In my first couple of weeks in Betel, I worked in a furniture restoration shop, which we restore old furniture and they sell it on a website called Restored by Betel.
Restaurants, landscaping, furniture restoration, now soft play business. It's doing all these businesses, and it's doing these with people who are recovering addicts and people with no necessary prior experience in these areas. They've got to have a skill, a trade, a way that they add value to the community, where they can support their family or their children. And I think the work is absolutely essential. It's part of life, and I think that Betel will introduce people to that work and give people opportunity to really embrace their skills and learn about things they just didn't even know they could do before.
I'm the church admin assistant, so I work closely with Pastor Jason.
We're here to seek the Lord tonight.
But I also am part of the Infinite Arts team. That one was a bit of a strange one because I never thought I'd get into that, but I've always wanted to. And I also work front of house in the cafe, which is more my main one.
It could appear Betel's got these businesses, for free labor, but in some respects, it's really an individual coming in and taking responsibility for their recovery. We call it meaningful work. It has a greater purpose than just generating money. It's really teaching people skills, how to live life, but it's also making way for the next person who's lost out there in addiction to have a free bed. You can call Betel up today and you could be in by tonight if you want. Even though we're in recovery for ourselves, it also takes our mindset off of like, it's just me. We're also caring for the next person coming in.
The slave labour thing, a lot of people are coming into Betel, they've never worked, and they think they're working for free. Well, they're not working for free. They're getting a roof over their head, they're getting food, they're getting recreation, they're getting support, they're getting transport. They're getting everything which people outside Betel have, they work for and they pay for it. So they're only working to pay for their own keep and their own support and care. So I find it unbelievable that people think it's slave labour. I think it's really, it's ridiculously short-sighted.
Detoxing off heroin and crack without medical assistance, it was really hard. Didn't sleep for the first 3 weeks, and the anxieties and stresses of, being in an environment were hard.
How long do you think it was before you started to feel better?
Physically, 3 to 4 weeks physically. But as far as mentally go, I'm just starting to scratch the surface of the emotional stuff, things are popping up, and, my anger's being one of them.
I think the big challenge for Adrian will be the stickability and the longevity of doing it day after day after day. What do you enjoy most about living in men's recovery community, and what's the thing you struggle the most with?
The thing I enjoy the most is the fellowship and having a family full of brothers. The hardest thing is also those brothers and my lack of patience towards them sometimes, which ends up with my temper. I've been diagnosed bipolar. I've used that as an excuse for my erraticness, but it all stems down to alcohol and drug misuse. I've always struggled to maintain a level of normalness and a steady pace of life. I'm either 100 miles an hour and up on the Everest, or I'm sinking down to the bottom of the ocean and slugging it. So I feel trapped. I feel I can't see any way out. I feel like I'm being suffocated and I can't breathe. My anxiety's through the roof. I'm erratic. I'm a danger to myself and I'm a danger to other people when I'm at a low point, because I can't see any way out and I can't see a future. Yeah, I pray for patience and I pray for but again, I'm that prayer's yet to be answered, I think.
When she was 5 months, I found out I was pregnant again. And I really thought I could do it at that time. I really thought that was it. It's, this is my chance to try and get myself clean. There's a reason I've had a baby now. I know it can work. My son Marcellus was born sleeping. And it was a horrific birth. He had issues with his abdomen. I was 6.5 months pregnant, seeing his little funeral box on his funeral. It was so small. And knowing I couldn't comfort my own baby. I've been beaten, I had bruises, knocked out, dragged, sexually abused, and none of that topped that moment. Grief just consumed me. I felt lonely. I had sold my car. I was stealing. I was lying to my family. I was stealing from my family. Anything to get my next buzz so that I didn't have to feel a thing. Because just feeling any somewhat of the consequences of what I'd done and what I'd put my family through, what I'd put my innocent girl through. It's too much.
I think what is hard about us judging each other as human beings and labeling each other as human beings is that we forget that innately we're all ultimately flawed and broken. And once you know that, you can have compassion.
I saw death as the only option. So my dad, even though after everything I put him through, after stealing, after lying, after him then having to take on my daughter,
with Rick's on her fingers, the verve on her tongue.
He was still so adamant to save me. He would come round as often as he could to bring a food bag to try and feed me. Because I wasn't eating because of the drugs. And he couldn't see his daughter waste away.
She has had to walk through getting past those labels of that you're not a good mom, the shame of it, the guilt of it. And I know for me, being able to be a part of the process to push her into what she is going to be and the potential of who she actually is and encouraging her as a mother has been really beautiful.
One day I had a dream, and in the dream I actually saw myself die. It felt so real. When I get asked about how my mum died, I saw my daughter being asked the same question. And just her little face having to say that her mum took her own life, or her mum died due to drug misuse, that she wasn't enough for me to stop, is what stopped me. So that's when I knew I had to come to Betel. Because it was literally then or never.
How long have you been here for?
Almost 3 years now.
Nikki is very involved in infant arts. And I would think she would say that the arts has been really paramount in her shifting an identity of who she is. To see the courage for her to actually openly tell people about her past was just amazing. And again, for her to be confident in telling people this is who I am, but not feel rejection or not feel shame about it, but know that that's not who she is anymore.
Once upon a time, in a far distant land, there lived a girl and her name was Nicola.
I actually created a fairy tale-like story to speak about my miscarriages. So it was a lightened story so that it was more digestible for people.
So she turned to the heavens and asked for a baby. The stars looked back and granted her 7. Though, one by one, each baby returned to the heavens, becoming a star.
A couple of weeks ago, Adrian decided to leave. It wasn't something we wanted to happen, but he decided he wanted to leave. He was struggling a bit with his issues. Obviously, he's gone out there. It hasn't met his expectations out there. Surprise, surprise. So he's phoned up to come back. I mean, we'd love to have him back, but you know, there's a limit to what we're prepared to put up with in the house when it comes to people getting angry and getting upset.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Chef?
You know what I mean?
So, regarding when you left,
Yeah.
why did you leave?
I chose, it was a murder, which happened in Bristol. Not a very nice guy, murdered someone, and me and someone very close to me is involved, and we're witnesses to it. 2 detectives actually come up to Windmill House, didn't they? I don't know if you remember. You remember it was a trigger, wasn't it?
It was like 2 days before you left.
It was a day before I left. And I'm willing to give evidence in person, so they don't need to, they had to convert the video statement to a written statement. So they've done that, and they come and they talked it through everything upstairs. But that was part of the reason why I left. I'd agreed to be a witness in the prosecution for this murder before I'd actually become a defendant myself. Do I really want to be a witness for a murder trial and potentially be put in prison myself? You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be received very well in prison, like, you know?
Yeah.
Heroin, cocaine, thousands of pounds in cash.
I've lived a life of crime, yeah. I'm well known to the criminal justice system.
This might sound like the storyline of a gritty crime drama, but in fact it was the sophisticated, concentrated and well-organised supply of huge amounts of drugs into Devon to the very tip of Cornwall, in a way that has never been seen before.
I think I'm very lucky that I haven't done a lot more time in prison than I have. My manipulative side comes out and I can tell people what they want to hear. It's alleged that me, I think 22 others, conspired to bring heroin and crack cocaine from Merseyside into Devon, Cornwall and Somerset.
I'm not saying this is Adrian. I'm not saying he is, but let's just take the worst case scenario. He's come here purely for his own interests. He's just going to try and use this opportunity to get himself off in court, and then he's going to do his own thing. Well, we know we're going into it with our eyes open. Very few of these guys come in here with like pure motives other than I want to sort my life out and I'm in it for everything I can get.
I was what I'd call a payday junkie, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'd only use like 2 or 3 days a week. I'd go back to work where I was living, rattle for 4 days, get over my mini rattle and then get a couple of days off and go and hit it again, smash it again. But then the pandemic hit and I'd using every day, got a really bad habit. And my mate, I'll call him Scouse Joe, he said, why don't you come down and see me? And I got a taxi with my boss over to my house in Exmouth, where I lived. And my mate Scouse Joey was at my house. And my boss said, oh, we'll just go there and have a few drinks and a bit of cocaine, yeah? And I said, oh, give me some crack. And my boss said, whoa, what are you on about crack? You didn't say anything about crack cocaine. And my boss, I remember it, this is where it went really bad. And he goes, you smoke a crack pipe in front of me and you've lost your job. So I went, smoked it in front of him, blew it in his face and I went, stick your job. And that was it, bang. From that moment on, I was a drug dealer.
There's certainly a lot of self-interest in this, otherwise there has to be, otherwise people just wouldn't come here. They soon find out when they get here, it's a tough assignment because it cuts living in community and the needs of community, it cuts across your will. People aren't used to that. When they come from addicted lifestyles, they've lived as they want, when they want, they do what they want, however they want.
Before I know it, I wasn't just, I was chucking some big weights about, do you know what I mean? And I was in too deep and we'd stay in holiday parks and stuff like that. And that was more regimental, it was like a Betel regime. They get you up at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're on hoovering, you're on laundry, you're cooking breakfast. And then they get the map out, it was like going out flyering, you know what I mean?
That's why you're driving off.
Yeah, it would. And they'd be like, right, you're doing this and you're doing that and you're doing that. And it was like real regimented. And we're parked up, like how it all come to an end, we're parked up overlooking a town in Cornwall called Camborne. And we're all parked up there and we're all going, well, this is all ours. Right? As far as we can see, this is the ironic bit, And we're going, this is all ours as far as we can see. And we pull off, I get out of the car, bang, cuffed, nipped.
It's not yours no more.
Yeah, not mine anymore.
Prison and their life of antisocial behavior is pretty much a revolving door. So how do you stop the door? And if he had an opportunity, rather than to be given a custodial sentence, but if you will, be sentenced, if you will, to Betel for a good season, that not only can his sentence be completed, but he can also achieve a change that would prevent him returning to that kind of life.
Worst case scenario, got sentenced, I'd get put in a vat, I'd get put in holes and cells, there'll be a few of us, we'd all have a good bit of banter and that, laugh. Going in for what we're going in for, there'd be drugs galore, we'd all have a welcoming party, so to speak. I'd have no hope, I'd be back on the drugs, those years however long, they'd fly by, do you know what I mean? Everything would fly by. I quite like watching TV,
Just laying out watching TV.
I've been out of Betel 40 months now. I've got a lot of EastEnders and Emmerdales to catch up on. They go, I hear you're a chef. Do you want to come and work? And I say, how much? Like they usually do. And they say, £14 a week. I say, jog on, mate. We'll work for that an hour, mate. I'm just going to lay here and watch TV sort of thing. But here in Betel, you've got to get up every day. You've got to interact with people. You can't lock yourself away. In jail, if someone wound me up, I'd deal with them sort of thing. And here you can't. You've just got to grin and bear it.
There's a lot more respect in here.
Yeah, it is about.
We love to bite our tongues and
it's called being
over our heads.
It's called being a normal member of society, isn't it? That's what they're trying to do, rehabilitate us into society. Rehabilitated is, in jail they class that as ticking, getting your ticks on the certificates, getting certificates in it. That's how they judge rehabilitation in jail. Like
in Adrian's case, if you spell the options out. On the one hand, you can put him in a taxpayer prison, costs X amount of money to keep him there, and he's going to sit languish in a cell, playing video games, watching TV for how many hours a day. He will be taking drugs before long. He's going to come back out on the street. There's a high degree of likelihood that he's going to be reoffending. Why? Because someone wanted their pound of flesh, that they demanded that justice was served and he needs to be punished, whereas the alternative in Betel is that it really is not a soft option at all. Adrian's going to be getting up, he's going to be working a full working week, and any income that generates is going to go back towards paying for his own recovery. So in effect, taxpayers not going to be paying for it. Adrian's going to be paying for it, or largely paying for it, with his own graft, and in that, then there's an opportunity for him to take ownership, and that his recovery will actually be worth something to him.
Dear Sir, Madam, re SGO relating to Hope Cusden, date of birth 15th of the 6th, 2019. My name is Nicola Ann Jewett, and I'm the mother of Hope Cusden mentioned above. As a result of my substance misuse, West Sussex County Council applied for and was granted a special guardianship order by Worthing Family Court. So I'm hoping and I'm praying that the 3 years that I've done will be enough. Hello, Papa. Just with the guys now, so I just wanted to establish a plan going forward this afternoon with you both.
Yeah.
So where are we meeting exactly?
Today is a big day for Adrian. We're going to be talking to the probation service today, hopefully to get him on board and that he would agree to the court agreeing for Adrian to come to Betel instead of going to prison.
Have these guys had the chance of hearing the testimony from one of the Betel guys?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's something I could possibly do and explain how well it's worked for me. Cannabis, magic mushrooms, speeds, that sort of stuff. That was the start of my drug taking at the age of 13, which was, in those days, it was quite young. When I was 16, I went to a juvenile detention centre. It was modelled on a military prison. The guys that I were mixing with were from all over the country. So you've kind of got all these lads in there, they're kind of comparing notes, pooling and sharing all the knowledge of crime, like things like, I know how to get past burglar alarms, steal cars, and this is how you steal a car. It was a bit like a, criminal fraternity university almost for young lads. I had 3 months there, and when I came out, I'd learnt a lot more about crime. They used to have to do circuit training every day, so I came out, I was really fit. It just seemed like a crazy thing to do to juvenile delinquents. You put them in prison, stir them up, get them really, really fit, and then release them out into the public again. And things just went crazy for me then, and I got more and more into drugs, more and more into partying. I started selling drugs for people who were more and more into organised crime. Good morning. Good morning. Right. My name's Timon Robbins, and I'm in charge of pastoral care of the men in Betel, Birmingham.
Okay.
And I'm sat here with Adrian.
Hiya, you right?
Hiya. Morning, Adrian.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
Yeah, good.
I just wanted to let you know that we're in the process of making a documentary here at Betel that's going to promote the work of Betel so that our services can be hopefully more widely available and people can have that same opportunity that Adrian has got in front of him. I don't know whether you would be willing for your part to be recorded or that can just be edited out at the end.
No.
Okay.
You can't record the session.
So by the time I was 21, I went to prison for selling drugs. I remember the prison officer said to me on the way in, "Oh, this isn't like juvenile prison. This is adult prison, and this is going to eat you alive." And when I was quite frightened, and as I walked in onto the main wing of the prison, I looked up and I already knew everyone that was there. So it was like I just slotted straight in, and I was involved in dealing and selling drugs inside the prison as well.
Hey, bring it back a quarter past to me. That.
Okay, you feeling about poorly?
Yeah, got it. Yeah. I understand why. I mean, I've done a bad thing, and you know what I mean. I need to give the consequences to that. Bad. And yeah. I'm doing it.
What time did he say it was room?
Quarter past, pretty much. Yeah.
Any minute now, but
yeah.
So were you expecting him to say that? Or
no.
What were you expecting?
Betel sounds brilliant.
Betel sounds brilliant. Let's get you in, and he's like,
yeah, he said no. So it sounds brilliant. He said it's really brilliant, and you said, I'm really happy for you. I'm over the moon for you. How you are and what you've done with your life, and I'm really happy that's where you're at with your life. He said, but sadly, but all saying too little, too late.
Is that what he said? Yeah. Too little. This is too little, too late.
It's too late, isn't it? Too late. I've done it. I've done the crime. So it's all that rehabilitation. Said, but if I'd have been done for the lesser role, which I thought I was going to be, but they accepted my plea basis, but they didn't. When the judge said that we'll sentence him for the lesser role, they then challenged my plea basis and said, we want him prosecuted on a significant role, because that's the difference between me going to prison and not going to prison.
Right, significant role and a non-significant role.
Yeah.
So non-significant role is you're just a runner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Significant role is you're more of a planner.
And I was running a line and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what they're saying. I wasn't. That's what they're saying.
You weren't, but it looks like you were.
Yeah, it looks like I was. The evidence said I was, yeah. The judge may love Betel. You don't know. The judge may love the idea of Betel. But sometimes their hands are tied, aren't they? And they're governed by the law, and they're governed by sentencing guidelines. And if they're told to do certain things, certain accountability, isn't it? Here in Betel, you've got certain ways, certain things you've got to do. You know, leaders, if they want us, you know, think, oh, I want to watch a film on Tuesday night, just because they think it's a good idea, they can't just let me watch a film on Tuesday night, because there's protocols and there's ways to do things, and that's the same with the court laws. So, yeah, just got to. But I'm in the best place, and you know, like I said, if worst case scenario does happen, I'm going to go and have hope, my health and faith.
So I think, from our point of view, hearing what I've heard today, what we have to do is get this guy on board with us.
Yeah.
And give him all the information we possibly can, so he can really convey that Betel isn't a soft option.
No, yeah, that'll be him, I think.
There's the phone. We'll go upstairs.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Alfred. I was on heroin from start to finish for 20 years, from when I was 21 to when I was 41. My dad had passed away, and it turned out that he left me some money. It was like throwing petrol on a fire. So like the amounts of drugs that were being taken were a lot more than, you know, you would normally find. I found one of the boys dead in my flat. I phoned the ambulance, and then I realized I had loads of drugs on me. So I tried to hide what drugs I had, and I tried to take as much drugs as I did. And at that point, I overdosed. So I got taken in an ambulance, and I went to hospital. I got out of town not long after that happened. I got offered a place in Betel, and I moved here. I think it was like within 3 months, the other 4 people out of the 5 of us had all died. So I just, you know, I made it out by the skin of my teeth. You know, I was 7.5 stone when I came to Betel. I had no veins. I was injecting in my jugular vein and injecting into my femoral artery in the front of my leg. And if that had gone wrong, you know, I would have been dead. There wasn't much left of my rope when I came here in many ways.
So it could be 2 years, or it could be 6 years. It just depends on, or it could be in Betel 2 years. It's on a knife edge. I wouldn't like to call it. I really wouldn't like to call it. But I just hope I don't get the 8 years. But the 8 years, that's the starting point. It could be 10 years, it could be 11 years, it could be 15 years, you know what I mean? So this starting point, that's what scares me.
It's unlikely to be that.
Yeah, that's what scares me. But
if you look at what's given out,
I'm just looking at the evidence they got. I'm trying to think of what evidence they've got against me. I'm reading through it, because I'm doing well on my journey. But that's why Betel was a long journey, because it isn't easy and it isn't quick. And, you know, if I say, I'm going to go now, and I'll be, you know, especially the first night is going to be the hardest for me, because if I do go in prison, because it's going to be that. And, you know, someone asks me, crap, I know my heart now, I'm not strong enough to turn that down now. And that's why I'm still in Betel, because if I was strong enough to turn that down, I wouldn't be in Betel. I'd be on my own, you know, because God's work would have been done, but it hasn't been done. So I haven't, you know, and hopefully I'll get the chance to finish off what I've started. That's what I hope. If I get sent to prison, I get sent to prison, and it's something I've got to deal with, but it's not like I don't deserve it. Do you know what I mean? I've done something, that old saying, you do the crime, you do the time. I've always been an addict, like since I can remember in my adult life, but when you get involved in heroin and crack, it's a different level, and it takes away everything. And I lost everything, and I'm in a place now where, you know, it's been 2 years since my arrest. I've stayed out of trouble since then, and yeah, I hope that they give me benefit of the doubt.
I could imagine right now Agent feeling very anxious, worried. What seemed to have a hopeful future before you now is being darkened by the unknown of being back in prison and being in that environment and what that could create in your life again.
The hardest thing is I've changed. My heart's changed. I used to have a propensity to violence, and I could turn on violence, let's flicker a switch. I can't anymore. I can't. I'm not that guy. I've got a different heart. I've actually got a heart now. So that's going to be hard. But if I've got, you know, survival in it, and if you're surrounded by animals, if you put in the jungle, you've got to live in the wild, haven't you? And you've got to survive. And if I've got to survive, I've got to survive.
I don't believe he needs to be violent again to survive. but I know the atmosphere and his previous experiences in prison would have him believe that he would need to be. But I do believe he can go there and stand firm and not feel like he's being a pushover, and not have to get violent, not have to resort back to his old way of life. So my appeal to the judge would be, have a different view of justice this time. Rather than imprisoning someone, maybe justice this time for all people involved would be for Adrian to have his life turned around. Being sentenced to Betel is not to see it as like he's avoiding justice or avoiding having to pay for his crime, but coming to Betel is a way of him serving his time, paying his debt to society for the crimes that he's committed, but at the same time changing. So that when he leaves, he isn't just another statistic, another crime statistic out there in society, but he can go back out and continue to repay his debt to society by being a citizen who is given back. Heron gave me a sense of the world could have been crumbling around me and I would have been smiling through it. I started when I was 16. I would say after about a year, around about, just not soon after I've been 17, is when I realized I was hooked and I began to do things that I said I would never do. So me and my friends used to steal motorbikes, sell them for parts. I used to shoplift a lot as well to support my addiction. I'd done 2 sentences for shoplifting, like stealing liquor and stuff like that, to be able to sell them on the street to different various people to support my habit. Aggravated assault and robbery, that's what I'd done my 2 years for. So I'd done various other things to commit crimes where it's all around the same thing, generally shoplifting or auto theft, to support my habit. The lowest point physically for me would be being homeless on the street, not getting a bath for days and weeks on end, having nowhere to really lay my head and sleep, sleeping in abandoned buildings, sleeping in sheds, parks, even wreckage yards, just old cars that were just left there. I would go sleep in them as well. They're probably my lowest point physically. Going in prison, in rehab, coming back out, thinking I was going to be able to change with my white knuckling through my addiction, and nothing seemed to work. By the time I was 24, I had been to 6 rehabs, been in prison another 2 more times, and nothing had really worked. I just couldn't find anything that went deep enough into my life to help me find out or deal with those wounds and stuff from my childhood, to why I was using drugs to hide and numb that. But during my younger years, my father was an alcoholic. He was physically and verbally abusive to myself and my mother. So growing up from the age of 5 to 7, it was a real turbulent time for me. I came to Betel and I felt the most hopeless I had ever felt in my entire life. One of my leaders of the house at that time, his name was David Murphy. I remember talking to him and telling him how I felt. And he began to tell me how there was hope in Jesus, how his life had changed by him giving his life to Jesus. And like I said, I didn't knock the whole God thing, but I still was like, that's good. I appreciate, that's worked for you, but I just don't really see how this Jesus who I don't know, I don't see, is going to help me with my trauma and this battle of addiction that I've been going through.
Tell us how long you've been free from drugs.
I will be free from drugs. I've been free from drugs for 16 years. It'll be 17 years, August 4th. I haven't touched a drink or a drug.
Jason came out of addiction, came to us from Bermuda, and to see the transformation in his life, and now literally a part of our family, married to our daughter, and to see how he's growing and maturing and leading things is an incredible joy to us.
I think I had been here about 7-8 years, and I had known Trish through that whole journey. And then eventually I got to a place I was thinking to myself, I want to date this girl. But obviously she's the director's daughter, so I was thinking to myself, that's going to be a little awkward. Then I had to muster up the courage and the strategy of how I was going to tell Kent and Marietta I want to date their daughter. So one day I was out with Mary Alice and I told her that I was interested in Trish. I didn't know how they were going to react, but I was surprised that she was actually, smart, very happy about it. She thought it was a great idea, and she said, "But hey, it ain't up to me. You got to go ask Trish,
We dated for like 4 or 5 years, something like that, before we got married. Dating was very eventful because I think he was kind of maturing in that time and learning himself more. So I think it was a really fruitful time. And that kind of the dating period helped me confirm marrying him. And we got married. Jason and I have been married for 7 years, and we have 2 girls. We have a 4-year-old named Mercy and a 9-month-old named Leah Grace, and they are wonderful.
My first impressions of Betel were a wet, rainy night in August. It was the rain was throwing it down, and a man with covered in tattoos, skinhead, teeth missing, introduced himself as a man from Betel who'd be looking after Lewis. So my first hit of Betel was that gentleman on that evening, and I thought, what the hell are we letting our son into here? What they've done to Lewis's life has been a miracle, really. They've changed him from being a selfish, drug-using addict who'd steal off me and Karen, he'd steal off anyone, to someone who's all the good things in Lewis have been amplified, and they've made him a really amazing person. He's got all the amazing qualities he had when he was younger, and he's kicked away all the bad things, and he's ended up being an incredible human being, really, really proud of him.
While I was at Betel, I was given the opportunity to be a product photographer in a charity which was supposed to be helping people get clean, and I thought that's really weird actually, because it's something that I've always been passionate about, but I'd lost that to drugs when I was using.
So, as you can see, the hearing went well for getting Hope back. The day itself obviously felt very surreal. Leading up to entering the court, didn't know how long the process was going to take, didn't know how many people were going to be there. And it ended up being that we entered the courtroom, and literally in 5 minutes, the whole SGO was completely discharged. So what that then means that there was no consequences or add-ons of social services being involved. And there is no court order now on Hope at all.
Once upon a time, in a far distant land, there lived a girl, and her name was Nicola. She lived in a land called Freedom, which was ruled by King Omega. This land was beautiful and filled with light, and her family lived happily there. Until one tragic day, her mother became ill and passed.
What do I owe to Betel?
Nicola knew this was not the end of the story, so she and her sister...
I owe them everything.
In John chapter 5, it talks about a man that had been paralyzed for 38 years. And Jesus says to him, do you want to get well? And you think, well, that's a crazy question, isn't it? Of course I want to get well. But do you want to get well? Because, if you put that into a modern context, you've got a guy who's been addicted for however many years, and someone asks the question, do you want to get well? Well, does that mean that I'm going to have to give up my benefits? Does that mean I'm going to have to stop taking my prescriptions? Does that mean I'm going to have to get up and go to work every day? So do you want to get well? Well, I'm not quite sure, really. I actually wondered if a life being clean and sober was actually going to be that good. But little did I know how much more there was to life, how much more God had for me. I look back and I see his handprints all over my life.
All these people don't know each other. Really, it seems like it shouldn't work, like especially like people's violent backgrounds and everything. But I believe the presence of God is what brings the peace.
We were just pretty simple young people who left America, but with a real sense of destiny and calling to just help people wherever they were hurting. And Betel became that focus of our energy.
What happened in there is nothing short of a miracle. Amazing. So, yeah, it's amazing. And
It's quite clear.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant.
Here comes the next film.
Yeah, it is, yeah, brilliant.
Quite clear what she said, didn't she, in the end? About
14 months in Betel.
Yeah,
you didn't want to disrupt the good work Betel's doing, yeah. I can plan, I've got a future, you know what I mean? But it doesn't involve HMP extra. Yeah. I can, there's a weight off my shoulders, and I can start really making, I'll start concentrating on the issues that really matter. Start concentrating on the things that really matter in life, not this life. This isn't a life, it's an existence. Look at the people that turn up at court, they're all smashed to bits, you know what I mean? Yeah. I said to the boys then, I said, this is bye, you know what I mean? I said, I'm going on my journey. And they said, we'll see you in 18 months, 40 months later. And I said, you won't. I'm lucky, I've been blessed by Betel, I've been given an opportunity. There's an opportunity that's open to all of them, but, they choose not to take it. I've chose to take it. And, I've been saved. I've been saved from myself. I've been saved from that, do you know what I mean? I've been saved from that. Yeah. Wow.
What a day.
What a day.
Amazing.
Wow, amazing. I thought this morning, I thought 5, yeah, I did. Yeah. I was convinced, especially when the person said, you're going to prison. And I deserve to go to prison, do you know what I mean? In the eyes of the law, I deserve to go to prison.
You really can't take this for granted.
Now the real work starts. Now the hard work starts.
You really need to make the most of this opportunity.
I'm going to now the real work starts.
And we'll help you.
Thank you. I've done some horrific things in my life. And, what you'd call unforgivable things. And but they're forgiven. Christ died on the cross for our sins and to absorb us from it. All we got to do is come and repent for them. And it sounds simplistic and it sounds, wonderful, just come and, say the sinner's prayer and then you've got this, absolutely, it's beautiful. But it's walking out, like you said, it's getting to that point where you actually believe it in your heart. And not, and the longest journey you'll ever do in your life from your head to your heart. But I'm also aware that not everyone else is going to be quick to forgive me, Brilliant. Oh, don't worry, mate. Don't worry about what it is. It's under the carpet. So I'm not deluded and thinking I can just prance around and everything's, start shouting hallelujah and everyone's going to just leave me alone. I've rubbed shoulders with some of the nastiest, most vile people you'd ever meet in your life. Bit by bit, your heart changes and your heart softens and your faith helps you trust in humanity again. Because I haven't been able to trust I haven't been able to trust people for years. Through the love of God, I've learned to trust people. And my heart's opened up and softened, yeah. And that's all by the grace of God, and yeah.
You didn't tell us why you were adopted to be both of them.
Yeah. My mum was a drinker, my dad was a drinker. Yeah, my dad used to go out on benders and not come home, and Mum set a house on fire and certain things happened. Consequently, my mum my mum passed away. I lost a little brother, Stephen. And me and Charlotte were put into care, and we were adopted consequently.
If you only just felt comfortable enough to...
Yeah, talk about that, yeah, it's just a bit, I've never talked about it. It's never really let it dictate my life. I've always had it very deep. I hated my mum for years. I hated her. I absolutely despised her. But the more I've struggled with my own addictions, my own problems, the more I sympathise with her. She was an extremely damaged and lost individual who just wanted attention and wanted to be loved. And that's how I see it now. Yeah. That's what I'm learning. My mum said, you're getting there, you're learning to love yourself, son, for the first time ever. And until you can love yourself, no one else will ever love you. So, getting there, yeah. I'm getting there.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? Be all made new. Jesus, when I met you, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Yeshua.